Imagine never having to turn another compost pile, yet still having the richest, most nutrient-dense soil amendment flowing directly into your raised beds. Picture thousands of tiny workers laboring 24/7 beneath your plants, transforming your kitchen scraps into garden gold while you sleep. This isn't a gardening fantasy, it's the reality of worm towers, the lazy gardener's secret weapon for effortless soil enrichment. Worm towers represent a paradigm shift in how we think about composting and soil health. Unlike traditional compost systems that require constant turning, monitoring, and maintenance, worm towers work silently in the background, creating a continuous cycle of nutrient delivery that your plants absolutely love. The beauty lies in their simplicity. You're essentially creating an underground restaurant for earthworms, where they dine on your kitchen scraps and pay rent in the form of liquid fertilizer and castings that seep directly into your growing medium. The science behind worm towers is remarkably elegant. As worms process organic matter, they produce castings that contain up to 5 times more nitrogen, 7 times more phosphorus, and 11 times more potassium than the surrounding soil. Even more impressive is the liquid fertilizer worm tea that naturally leaches from the tower during watering and rain events. This liquid gold contains beneficial microorganisms, enzymes, and nutrients in forms that plants can immediately absorb, creating a slow-release fertilization system that works around the clock. The foundation of any successful worm tower begins with choosing the right container. A standard 5-gallon bucket works beautifully for most raised beds, providing ample space for a thriving worm population while maintaining the perfect size-to-productivity ratio. For deeper beds or those wanting maximum output, consider using a length of 6-inch PVC pipe, approximately 2 to 3 feet long, which offers excellent durability and allows for easy customization of depth. Now, your drilling equipment becomes crucial for creating the ecosystem your worms need to thrive. A standard drill with 1/4-inch bits will create perfectly sized holes for worm movement while ensuring proper drainage. The hole pattern should concentrate on the bottom third of your container, with additional holes spiraling up the sides to create multiple entry and exit points for your underground workforce. Don't overlook the importance of a proper lid system. A simple bucket lid with ventilation holes works perfectly, but you can also create a more sophisticated setup using hardware cloth secured with a ring clamp. The lid serves multiple purposes, preventing excessive moisture during heavy rains, deterring pests, and maintaining optimal conditions for worm activity. Some gardeners prefer adding a layer of burlap or coconut coir mat under the lid for additional moisture regulation and pest deterrence. Location selection can make or break your worm tower's success. Choose a spot in your raised bed that receives morning sun but afternoon shade, since extreme temperatures can stress your worm population. The ideal location should be easily accessible for regular feeding but not in the direct path of heavy foot traffic that might compact the surrounding soil. The installation process requires more finesse than simple hole digging. Begin by excavating a hole that's approximately 2 inches wider than your container's diameter and deep enough to bury roughly 2/3 of the tower. This depth ensures proper soil contact while keeping the feeding opening conveniently accessible. As you dig, save the best quality soil for backfilling, as this will become the immediate environment your worms will colonize. When positioning your tower, ensure it sits level and stable. The top should extend 6 to 8 inches above soil level, providing easy access for feeding while preventing surface runoff from entering your system. Pack the saved soil firmly around the container, creating good contact between the holes and the surrounding growing medium. This soil-to-container connection is critical for worm migration and nutrient distribution. The bedding layer serves as both home and initial food source for your worm colony. Create a diverse bedding mix using shredded cardboard, coconut coir, and aged compost in equal proportions. This combination provides the carbon-rich environment worms prefer while offering various textures and nutrients. Avoid using glossy paper or cardboard with heavy inks, as these can introduce harmful chemicals into your system. Red wiggler worms are, honestly, the undisputed champions of worm tower composting. They really thrive in the confined environment and process organic matter at remarkable rates, You should start with about 1 pound of worms per tower though, It's totally fine to begin with fewer and just let the population establish naturally over time. When introducing worms to their new home, it's best to do it gradually over several days. That way, they can acclimate to their new environment rather than being shocked by any sudden changes. The initial feeding should be pretty light and made up of easily digestible materials like fruit peels, vegetable trimmings, and coffee grounds. You'll want to bury these materials under several inches of bedding, which creates little anaerobic pockets where decomposition can really get started. This buried feeding method not only prevents pest attraction but also provides immediate nutrition for your establishing worm colony. Successful worm tower management, well, it really revolves around understanding the delicate balance between feeding and decomposition rates. Your worms can typically process their body weight in organic matter every day, but honestly, this rate depends a lot on things like temperature, moisture, and the type of materials you provide. During the peak season, a well-established tower can handle vegetable scraps from a family of 4, transforming what would otherwise be waste into valuable soil amendments. So the feeding schedule should follow a little and often approach instead of, adding large amounts all at once. Every few days just bury some fresh organic matter under the existing bedding and make sure to rotate the locations within the tower. This way you're ensuring an even distribution of nutrients and preventing any single spot from getting overloaded. Plus, this rotation encourages the worms to move throughout the whole system, really maximizing their soil-improving impact in the surrounding bed. Moisture management does require some attention, but honestly, it's not too complicated. The contents should feel a bit like a wrung-out sponge, so moist but definitely not waterlogged. During those dry periods, add water slowly, giving it time to soak into the bedding layers. And when it's wet out, make sure your drainage holes are clear and maybe toss in some dry carbon materials, like shredded paper, to soak up any extra moisture. The lid is especially important during heavy rains, since it helps prevent waterlogging that could harm your worm population. One of the really great things about worm towers is their continuous production model. Unlike traditional composting, which gives you finished compost in batches, worm towers keep providing benefits all the time. You'll get liquid fertilizer seeping into the surrounding soil, and finished castings that build up over time. That liquid fertilizer effect actually starts almost right away, and you'll often notice plants near the tower showing better growth and color within just a few weeks of setting everything up. Harvesting finished castings typically begins after 3 to 4 months of operation, depending on feeding rates and environmental conditions. The castings will accumulate in the lower portion of the tower, appearing as dark, rich, odorless material that crumbles easily in your hands. To harvest, simply remove the top layer of fresh bedding and unprocessed materials, revealing the finished castings beneath. These castings can be used immediately as a soil amendment or stored for future use. Common challenges in worm tower management are easily addressed with basic understanding of worm biology and environmental needs. If you notice reduced worm activity, check moisture levels first, as both drought and waterlogging can cause worms to migrate away from the tower. Temperature extremes can also cause temporary population declines, but healthy systems typically recover quickly when conditions normalize. Worm towers represent more than just a composting solution. They're really an investment in long-term soil health that pays dividends for years. The beneficial microorganisms introduced through worm activity improve soil structure, enhance nutrient cycling, and create resilient growing conditions that support plant health naturally. As your worm population establishes and migrates throughout your raised bed, you'll start to notice improved soil texture, better water retention, and increased overall plant vigor. The sustainability aspect of worm towers extends beyond waste reduction to encompass broader environmental benefits. By processing organic waste on site, you're reducing transportation emissions associated with waste disposal, while creating a closed-loop system that mimics natural nutrient cycling. This approach aligns perfectly with regenerative gardening practices that focus on building soil health rather than simply feeding plants. Your worm tower system will evolve and improve over time, becoming more productive and efficient as the ecosystem matures. The surrounding soil will develop a rich community of beneficial organisms, creating a living system that continues producing benefits long after the initial installation. This long-term perspective makes worm towers an excellent investment for gardeners committed to sustainable, low-maintenance growing methods. If you found this guide helpful and want to transform your raised bed gardening with minimal effort, make sure to subscribe to the Smart Garden YouTube channel for more innovative gardening solutions that work with nature, not against it. Share this video with fellow gardeners who are ready to embrace the lazy gardener's approach to soil health. Your plants will thank you, and so will your back.